Does the Prime Minister understand? There is a growing feeling of anger in this country that we are living through two-tier policing and a two-tier justice system. Net migration had run at 30 to 50,000 a year for over half a century. Then Mr Blair gets in and decides we're going to open the doors in a way that had never been done before. That net migration was the same during the late 1940s, the whole of the 1950s, the whole of the 1960s, the whole of the 1970s, the whole of the 1980s.
Since Labour's last landslide victory, the UK's population has surged by 10 million. That's equivalent to adding a city the size of London in just 2 decades. The repercussions: skyrocketing rents, overwhelmed public services, and a housing crisis that's reaching boiling point. Nigel Farage claims Labour's promise to build 1.5 million houses is a drop in the ocean. But is he right? And what's his solution to this demographic time bomb? The answers might surprise you. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Nigel Farage has thrown down the gauntlet, and it's a bombshell that's sure to ruffle some feathers. Net migration is now equivalent to 1 migrant every minute, he declares, painting a vivid picture of the UK's immigration landscape. It's a claim that's bound to spark heated debate, but Farage isn't one to shy away from controversy.
Population increase of 10 million people since that time that Labour won its last landslide. Even the net figure is a migrant a minute. That massive acceleration in our population through immigration would then, by a Conservative Party, who despite promises in 4 consecutive manifestos, and especially giant multinationals, who have always wanted as much cheap labour as they can get, and to hell with the consequences for working class families and people.
The firebrand politician has set his sights on Labour's immigration policies, and he's not pulling any punches. Farage argues that the party has failed to address the consequences of increased immigration, leading to a decline in the quality of life for British citizens. It's a bold assertion, but one that resonates with many who feel left behind by the rapid changes in their communities. But here's where it gets interesting. While some tout the economic benefits of immigration, Farage is quick to highlight the social challenges. He points to overwhelmed public services as evidence of the strain caused by population growth. NHS waiting times are stretching longer than a queue for the latest iPhone, and school class sizes are bursting at the seams. It's a situation that's leaving many Brits feeling squeezed and frustrated. Farage's critique isn't just about the present, he's taking us on a journey through time. He reminds us that net migration was once a manageable trickle of 30,000 to 50,000 per year. But then, according to Farage, Tony Blair's Labour government flung open the doors, and that trickle became a flood. It's a historical perspective that adds weight to his arguments and raises questions about the long-term consequences of past policy decisions. As if the situation wasn't dire enough, Farage drops another bombshell. He claims that criminal gangs are raking in a staggering 2 to 3 million euros a week from smuggling people across the English Channel. It's a revelation that adds a sinister dimension to the immigration debate and fuels concerns about border security.
The sheer level of population means we have to build a new house every 2 minutes. Even if the Labour government is able to fulfil the 1.5 million houses, rents have risen by 25% since 2021. Why? Population increase and pressure. And the list goes on through access to health services, to congestion, to pressure on infrastructure. I went out into the English Channel repeatedly, filming dinghies coming across the channel, dinghies with an average of 16 people per boat.
So what's Farage's solution to this complex and contentious issue? He's calling for stricter border controls and a points-based immigration system. It's a proposal that's sure to be met with both cheers and jeers, depending on which side of the political fence you're sitting on. But one thing's for certain, Farage believes that without these measures, the challenges posed by immigration will continue to escalate. But hold on to your hats, folks, because immigration is just the tip of the iceberg in Farage's critique of Labour. There's more controversy brewing on the horizon, and it's set to shake up the political landscape even further. Farage's scathing critique of Labour's housing policies has sent shockwaves through Westminster. He's not mincing words, folks. The firebrand politician claims that Labour's promise to build 1.5 million houses during its term is about as effective as trying to fill the Grand Canyon with a teaspoon. It's a bold statement, but one that's forcing us to take a hard look at the UK's housing crisis. Let's face it, the current situation is dire. Skyrocketing rents and home prices have left many Brits feeling like they're caught in a never-ending game of financial twister. Young families are being priced out of the market, and the dream of home ownership is slipping further away for an entire generation. Labour's proposed solutions sound good on paper, but Farage argues they're woefully inadequate given the explosive population growth.
I was described as being a sad, lonely, desperate figure, always seeking attention. And I've no doubt there are some that think that's still the case. The population crisis is the biggest impact affecting people's lives, damaging their quality of life, and virtually nobody in this place even wants to talk about it. But I did it because it was obvious to me what was going to happen. It was obvious that there would be a huge influx of people illegally coming to Britain.
Here's where it gets interesting. Farage isn't just criticising Labour's plans, he's shining a spotlight on what he calls the population crisis. It's a topic that's been largely ignored in political discourse. But Farage insists it's the biggest factor affecting people's lives and damaging their quality of life. He's not wrong. The pressure on housing is undeniable, and it's leaving many Brits feeling squeezed and frustrated. But Farage's critique goes beyond just pointing out problems. He's warning of dire economic consequences if these issues aren't addressed. His argument is simple. Labour's housing policies are completely inadequate in the face of rapid population growth, and this mismatch will lead to further economic decline. It's a sobering prediction that's forcing us to confront some uncomfortable truths about the relationship between population growth and housing demand. Farage isn't pulling any punches when it comes to the lack of political discourse on this issue. He argues that understanding the population crisis is crucial for tackling the housing market's challenges. It's a perspective that's gaining traction, especially among those who feel left behind by the rapid changes in their communities. As if the housing crisis wasn't enough to keep us up at night, Farage is painting a picture of a looming economic storm. He's predicting a crisis fueled by unsustainable debt and unchecked population growth.
We'd stopped deporting people who came to Britain illegally. And perhaps the Labour Party might want to reflect themselves on the last period of Labour government. Indeed, in the last year of the Labour government, from 2009 to 10, 50,000 people who came here illegally were deported. It's the increased role of a court overseas that was set up in the wake of World War II with the very, very best of intentions that has now completely outlived its usefulness.
It's a grim forecast that's sure to spark heated debate in the coming months. But hold on to your hats, because Farage's most controversial proposal was yet to come. The political maverick isn't just content with criticising Labour's policies, he's got some radical ideas of his own that are set to shake up the establishment even further. Nigel Farage's fiery first year in Parliament has been nothing short of a political earthquake. His scathing critiques of Labour's policies on immigration, housing and the economy have left the establishment reeling. Farage's claims about unchecked population growth and its dire consequences have struck a chord with many Brits feeling the pinch of overwhelmed public services and skyrocketing living costs. But is Farage the voice of reason we desperately need, or just another political provocateur stirring up controversy? His opponents argue he's oversimplifying complex issues, while supporters see him as a brave truth-teller. One thing's certain, Farage has forced us to confront uncomfortable realities about the UK's future. As a political analyst noted, the bigger our population becomes, the poorer we are becoming, and that's a reality we got to wake up to. It's a stark warning that echoes Farage's own dire predictions. His challenge to Labour is clear. Prove him wrong or change course. The ball's in their court now, and the British public is watching closely.